We're live.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the December 12th, 2022 meeting of the University City Council to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Clay. Councilmember Klein. Councilmember McMahon.
Here.
Councilmember Hales.
Here.
Councilmember Cusick. Councilmember Smotherson.
Here.
Mayor Crowe.
Here. Before you, you have the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any changes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Hales. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McMahon. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We have no proclamations this evening. We have a number of minutes to approve. November the 14th, 2022 study session comprehensive plan update. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. McMahon. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Cusick. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. And Mr. Clay will abstain on that vote. Those opposed? The ayes have it. You have before you the November 14th, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Ms. Klein, seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? And Mr. Clay will abstain. The ayes have it. You have before you the minutes of November 28th, 2022 study session proposed changes to pension plans. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Cusick, seconded by Mr. McMahon. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You have before you the November 28th regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Smotherson, seconded by Mr. Hales. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? And Madam Clerk, please note that Councilmember Clay abstained from the both of the November 28th meeting because he was not here at those. You have before you several appointments. Mr. Hales.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. I would like to nominate Ellen Hartz for reappointment to the Plan Commission.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McMahon. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Hales.
Thank you. I'd also like to nominate Mark Harvey for reappointment to the Plan Commission.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McMahon. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Hales.
And I would also like to nominate Patricia McQueen for reappointment to the Plan Commission.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Cusick. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we'd like to call forward Connie Mueller to be sworn into the Green Practices Commission.
I, Connie Mueller,
Do solemnly swear that I possess all of the qualifications and am not subject to any of the disqualifications named in the charter for the office I'm about to assume.
do solemnly swear that I possess all of the qualifications and am not subject to any of the disqualifications named in the charter for the office I am about to assume.
That I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of the state of Missouri and the charter and ordinances of University City.
That I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of the state of Missouri and the charter and ordinances of University City.
That I will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of the office I am about to assume with impartiality and justice.
That I will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of the office I am about to assume with impartiality and justice.
Ms. Mueller, thank you very much for your willingness to serve our community. We appreciate it. We now move to citizen participation. For anyone who just walked in, there are sign-up sheets over by the door. If you would like to speak either on an agenda item or a non-agenda item, please fill out a form and then submit it into the baskets down by the city clerk. The first citizen participation section is allocated 15 minutes. Each speaker gets 5 minutes. When you come to the microphone, if you'll push the button at the bottom, it'll turn the microphone on, and please give your name and address. The first person who would like to speak is Ms. Diane Bonds.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Diane Bonds. I reside at 8665 Spoon Drive. And I have a concern. First, I have a question. Is there a difference in public versus residential parking? We have a problem with the resident. I don't know if it's a resident, a person who has a family member that lives on the block. And he uses the street for personal parking. So he's got 2 motorcycles, 2 large trucks, and 2 8x12 trailers for hauling. Now, mind you, as you come down the street and you turn onto the cul-de-sac, you can't see. So if traffic is coming down to turn onto the cul-de-sac, those trailers block it, and vice versa. And so my concern is when we have children, pets, elderly. And so when you're coming around there and they do speed sometimes over 35 miles an hour, you don't see it, especially after 5 o'clock because it's dark. So if we have trash people, have a fireman or a fire truck or ambulance, they can't get through there because you got 2 trailers immediately up on that turn and a neighbor who parks his SUV. So you got enough space for a car to get in there. But if you're not familiar with the street, you don't know oncoming and outgoing traffic. And so I've called the police and they only ticket the travelers because they say one is not registered. And I don't really mean to cause him a lot of problems, but he doesn't live on the street. His family member does. He lives in North County. So our concern is park your trailers there. We don't mind so much as the truck. And he finally, after a year, moved the 2 motorcycles off the sidewalk. But that's a problem. So I'd like to know who we can talk to get that problem fixed.
Ms. Bonds, I believe that the city manager will have someone contact you after your comments this evening.
Okay, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
And happy holiday, everyone.
You as well. Our next request to speak is Chris Chesley.
Hello, my name is Chris Chesley. I reside at 1519 Tower Grove Avenue in St. Louis City. I am one of the owners of Starbuds Dispensary on Olive, and I know you guys have a lot going on since the passment of Amendment 3. I worked very hard on it for many years. I was also one of the drafters and wanted to make you guys aware of a few things as I'm also a part of the trade association here in Missouri. The last trade association meeting, we were told by the state attorney that represents the medical marijuana department and also private counsel that you guys most likely need to amend your ordinance before we would be allowed to start selling recreational. I know that I believe you have a tax ordinance on tonight's agenda. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. We were told that it's going to have to say recreational and medical marijuana sales before we would be able to start. Hopefully we plan on starting in the state giving us approval, assuming that you guys amend the ordinance right around February 8th. Also wanted to make you guys aware that the amendment also allows for lounges. So cannabis lounges aren't very widely available throughout the United States. We did build this in. I think it would be very wise for the University City to create an ordinance and a licensing process, not only for long-term cannabis lounges, but also temporary for certain events that could bring a lot of revenue. And the cannabis tax, I have spoke to a lot of different city councils on this. I know a lot of most, not all, plan on doing the 3% tax I'm a little weary of that. I definitely believe that you guys should pass an additional tax, cannabis tax just for the city. But I really don't want to see that at a 3%. There's a lot of people that do shop around. They know the tax rates. And I believe somewhere around a 2% would be much more fair and draw more business that I think could outweigh the 1% difference. So that's all I have to say. Any questions?
We don't normally ask questions during the citizen comment portion of the meeting, but we appreciate you coming in. I believe you left me a voicemail and I tried that number 3 times and I got the oddest reply. So maybe I transposed the number. So you didn't hear back from me and I apologize for that, but I'm happy to follow up with you, but I simply could not get through on the number that was left for you.
Okay.
So, but thank you for coming this evening.
Mhm.
Our next request to speak is Mr. Tom Sullivan.
Tom Sullivan, 751 Syracuse. I recently gave a list of neighborhood and city issues to the city manager. Some have been taken care of, most have not. Some go back more than a year. It seems odd that the city manager doesn't seem all that interested. Another ongoing issue is the vacancies in the loop. Most notably is the old Cicero space. It's pretty bad when the most visible space in the loop has been vacant now for over 5 years. A hair salon that was in the building has moved out. The U City Grill that has been in the building for a half century or more is no longer operating. Space next door where the melting pot used to be has now been vacant for a couple of years. Space next to it is also vacant. The old bread company space has been vacant more than 5 years. In the same building, Commerce Bank has now moved out into a smaller space across the street with no drive-through or safe deposit boxes, leaving this longtime space vacant. A retailer in the building has also left, leaving it totally vacant. It looks like that will result in more bulldozing in the city. I shudder to think what will go there. Maybe a high-rise dormitory for Washington University. The university owns the old Craft Alliance building next door, which is also vacant. Going east, there are numerous other vacancies, including 2 storefronts in the city parking garage building. Also, Hopcap left 2 storefront vacancies and 2 second-story spaces when they left over 2 years ago. They have not been filled. It's hard to understand why so much space has remained empty for so long in the loop. Perhaps it's because the loop has been neglected due to the Costco obsession. There are other locations in the east end of the city that are also not doing well. At Midland and Delmar, there are 2 retail spaces that have been vacant for some time. At Midland and Olive, there is still a vacant corner the city owns. The building should have never been torn down. It is now unlikely, if anything, will take its place. But a Quick Trip is going in at North and South. Putting in a couple hundred tons of concrete for an unneeded gas station is not exactly a creative use. Green space is continually being eliminated in University City. At Pennsylvania and Olive, the historic old Hamburger Heaven building was torn down a month or 2 ago, but nothing has replaced it. At Olive and Ferguson, an old gas station has been vacant for years and has become an eyesore. Several buildings east have vacant spaces, and if you go farther east is one dilapidated building after another, along with a couple of auto storage lots or junkyards. For 2023, the city has quite a long to-do list. Thank you for listening to my comments.
That concludes our citizen participation for this section of the agenda. We have no public hearings. You now have before you the consent agenda with items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on them. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion made by Mr. McMahon. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Hales. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Rose.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I was asked to give a update on Centennial Commons. And so I have information I'd like to read into the record, as well as I would like for our Parks and Recreation Director, Darren Dunkel, to present some information regarding cost associated with restoration of some of the few of our facilities. The historic flooding that occurred on July 26, 2022 resulted in more than $14 million in damages to city property, including numerous public safety and non-public safety vehicles and equipment, a fire station, public works yard, community center, and Centennial Commons, which includes the pool. To date, we have spent approximately $3.3 million in recovery efforts and have only received $739 from insurance coverage. This has resulted in a net of approximately $2.6 million out-of-pocket expenses. Because President Biden declared the area flooded a disaster area, we're applying for federal funding from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, with the hopes of recovering a significant portion of our expenses, although it is unlikely that we will be made whole. Because of damage caused by the historic flood, most of the areas in Centennial Commons is closed until further notice, which is posted on our webpage. However, the business offices of Centennial Commons are being used, and we are exploring opening the cardio area. I am told Interim Public Works Director Darren Dunkel is working with our building official to determine if the condemned order can be lifted for the cardio area, track, and remaining business areas. The estimated cost of fully restoring Centennial Commons and the pool is approximately $1 million. I am told by FEMA representatives that if we restore facilities without FEMA's approval, those expenses will not be reimbursed. As you give some thought to restoring our non-emergency city facilities, I would ask that you keep in mind we have other major costs on the horizon. The match for the federal buyout program is estimated at $1.6 million. The detention basin match is estimated at $3.5 million. The public safety pension fund deficit remains at $7.6 million. The debt service on the $24 million needed for the police annex and Trinity building restoration or renovations. Because Centennial Commons is a non-emergency facility, due to the other major costs on the horizons, and because if we receive FEMA's approval to proceed with repairs, we should be reimbursed some of our costs for restoration of the facility, I would not recommend restoring Centennial Commons at this time. I would ask Public Works, Parks and Recreation Director Darren Dunkel to share with you some of the cost estimates that he has calculated for Centennial Commons, the pool, the ball field, the dog park. Mr. Dunkel.
Thank you, Mr. Rose, Mayor Crowe, members of council. And looking at the numbers and to talk about what Mr. Rose has stated, we have turned in scopes of work to FEMA on these items. FEMA at the time said once they received our scope of work that it could take several months for them to review prior to us even getting the go-ahead to go out to bid for these things and or to get reimbursement. And part of that practice, we went through and looked at our costs, and these are cost estimates. We have not gone out to bid for anything because it's a little premature for that, but we do have cost estimates. On the restoration of the Jack Buck baseball field, we're looking at close to $136,000 for that restoration. That includes the restoration of the field, the fencing, and the warning track. Looking at the dog park, we have approximately $70,000 in costs, and that is for the removal and replacement of the damaged fencing. Looking at the swimming pool, we're looking at a $350,000 cost. That includes the biggest part of that cost is electric, because a lot of electric to that building and to the pool was underwater. So all that electric needs to be replaced. Also to restoration of walls and other things throughout the building, such as the concession area, the lobby area, storage rooms, locker rooms. Also the removal and replacement of the fencing that was damaged, replacement of the water heater, et cetera. Moving away from the pool and the pool building to Centennial Commons, we're looking at a little over $656,000. A big portion of that is the electric as well. Another big portion is the replacement of the gym floor, as well as repairs to walls and flooring throughout the rest of the building. If any of you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Mr. Smotherson.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. Mr. Dunkel, what I'd like to ask is, or I don't know if this is a question for you or Mr. Rose, but you said that insurance, we received 739,000 total from insurance. Is that correct?
That is correct. At
Is-
this time, yes, that's
is-
what we received.
Right. Is there a breakdown of that 739,000? And
We can provide a breakdown of what's been received. Don't have that information for you tonight, though.
and so well, we'll get the breakdown, but again, this is the total of everything that we're looking at on this list. If that's what insurance covered, meaning insurance covered the Jack Buck Field, Dog Park, swimming pool, and Centennial Commons. Is that what I'm assuming? That's the $739,000.
Police and fire police and fire equipment as well as the fire station.
Is included.
And so all of that's included, but I'll get a breakdown of exactly what's included in the 739 versus trying to respond off the cuff.
Well, again, the last question I have is, I'm just kind of finding it interesting. Why so little in reference to the insurance coverage? If that can be answered, I don't know, because again, if I'm insuring my home or if I'm insuring, you know what I mean? I'm actually looking, I would expect that the insurance company would cover what's been damaged or what needs to be recovered.
That would have been wonderful, but that's not how it worked for us. We can get information on exactly what was covered and what percentage that they are paying. But we knew all along that we would not be made whole by both insurance as well as even if with FEMA's coverage as well. So I think that we can get closer if we wait for FEMA funding. Otherwise, you would be absorbing those costs.
Mr.
I
Clay.
also, I'm sorry, Honorable Mayor, council members, I also wanted to share with you that we are Darren is looking at working with Redbird Rookies, I think. You want to share some of
Yes,
that?
we're also working with Cardinal Scare, who they support the Redbird Rookies program. And as you may recall, they provided funding in the past for Jack Buck Field. We've had some preliminary conversations with them. They're looking at the cost estimates and looking into that. And there is the potential that they might help out in some cost sharing, but we do not have any further details at this time as they're still exploring.
Mr. Clay.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. And I may have missed this, so forgive me, City Manager Rose or Director Dunkel. When do we expect to hear back from FEMA regarding whether or not we would be eligible for?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Clay, we don't have a time set. I want to be clear that it is not the city running this process. It is FEMA's process. And so we provide them with all of the information that is being requested of us. And we have to wait for them to respond. We contact them periodically just to remind them, hey, we're waiting on this and the impacts that it has to our community. But as you can appreciate, it's a federal organization, so they have multiple communities that they're dealing with.
Because and I certainly appreciate that. And as constituents have reached out to me about Centennial Commons, I've certainly shared this reality with them that we are trying to seek application to get our cost reimbursed. But I know Centennial Commons is not police and fire, certainly, but it is a meaningful asset for a lot of folks in our community. So we don't know when FEMA may respond. So I think there comes a point where we have to decide, have we waited long enough? Have our citizens been without this amenity? I know that's not an administrative decision, it's a council decision, but by the time, we are well into certainly the first quarter, if not later. Even if construction began, replacements began, in January, we would still be some time out before the facility would be open. So I just think it's a question that we may need to wrestle with at some point.
Yeah, we certainly intend to work with our federal delegation to try and expedite the process with FEMA. But going forward and absorbing those costs with all of the outstanding items that you have, when you come out of this, you also want to continue to be in a strong financial position, because we know better than anyone now that a disaster can be right around the corner, that we must be prepared to go it alone on. We were fortunate this time that the federal government stepped in, but there's no guarantees that that will occur. And so we have to be in a strong enough financial position to absorb those costs if we're required to do so.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Dunkel. We'll now move forward to unfinished business. We have before you Bill number 9421 to be withdrawn. This bill was originally introduced by Councilmember Clay, and I am wondering whether since this bill has already been replaced, I believe, Mr. Clay, are you willing to make the motion to withdraw Bill number 9421? We are doing some housekeeping at year end.
I am.
And do we have to read this, John, or can we? No. Is there a second to withdrawing Bill number 9421? Is there seconded by Ms. Klein? Is there a discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill number 9440 was introduced by Councilmember Smotherson. Are you willing to make a motion to withdraw?
I am, yes.
Is there a second to Mr. Smotherson? Seconded by Mr. Hales. Is there a discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We now have before you Bill number 9494. Who would like to introduce? Mr. McMahon. Madam Clerk, may we have the first reading? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I apologize. This is unfinished, but I apologize. May we have the second reading?
Bill 9494, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a contract between the city of University City and the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission, providing for the Kemplin Place Road Bridge reconstruction over a branch of River de Pere.
May we have the third reading?
Bill 9494, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a contract between the city of University City and the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission, providing for the Kemplin Place Road Bridge reconstruction over a branch of River de Pere.
Thank you very much. Mr. McMahon was willing to introduce. Are you willing to make the motion? Motion made by Mr. McMahon. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Clay. Is there a discussion? Mr. Clay.
Very quickly, Mayor Crowe. I did note this earlier, but for the record, Kemplin is KEMPLAND.
Scrivener's error. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cusick, Councilmember Smotherson, Councilmember Clay, Councilmember Klein, Councilmember McMahon,
Aye.
Councilmember Hales.
Aye.
Mayor Crowe.
Aye. The bill is passed. We'll now move forward to new business. We have resolution number 2022-17 encouraging Great Rivers Greenway Bike Path. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Ms. Klein. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Cusick. Is there discussion? Hearing none. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Klein.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a minute to thank University City resident Mark Weiner, who brought this conversation to council and taught and spoke with employees and also with the Great Rivers Greenway Commission and really has kind of got this going. I think it's going to be a tremendous asset to our city. And this is kind of just a statement that we can express how interested we are in getting this process going.
Anyone else? Hearing no further discussion, those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We'll now move forward to bill number 9495. Who would like to introduce? Mr. Cusick. May we have the first reading, Madam Clerk?
Bill 9495, an ordinance imposing an additional sales tax in the amount of 3% on all tangible personal property retail sacks of adult use marijuana sold in the city of University City, Missouri, and providing for the submission of a proposition authorizing such tax to the qualified voters at the general municipal election on April 4th, 2023.
Thank you. You now have before you Bill number 9496. Who would like to introduce? Introduced by Mr. Smotherson. Madam Clerk, would you please give the first reading?
Bill 9496, an ordinance amending section 100.180 of the University City Municipal Code relating to ward boundaries by repealing section 100.180 and enacting in lieu of thereof a new section to be known as section 100.180 wards, thereby amending said section so as to change the boundaries of the city's 3 wards.
Thank you very much. We'll now move forward to council reports and business. Are there any reports to be made by members of council? Hearing none, we will move forward with citizen participation. I believe we had one request to speak. I believe that is Ms. Erin Ginsburg.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and city manager. My name is Erin Ginsburg. I live at 430 West Point Court. And this past weekend, U-City's TNR volunteers vetted 3 more community cats. Plus, one of the kitties we TNR'd in September has responded so well to our socialization efforts. She's at the APA ready for adoption. Since 2018, U-City's TNR volunteers have vetted 350 cats in our community and placed more than 70 kittens and friendly cats into rescue at no cost to U-City taxpayers. Unfortunately, code enforcement officers still target our volunteers. Even after council passed a TNR ordinance, community cat caregivers have been told, get rid of the kitty shelters, quit feeding, or risk a $500 fine. Why? According to code enforcement lead Tim Scott, food, water, and shelter are not explicitly listed in the permitted acts section 210.130, quote, therefore it is understood that permission has not been given to do so. U-City's TNR volunteers continue to respectfully request that section 210.130 of our municipal code be amended to add providing food, water, and shelter to the list of permitted acts. Thank you for your service to our community.
Thank you very much. That concludes our second section of citizen comments. Are there any council comments this evening? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Mr. Hale, seconded by Mr. Cusick. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much for coming.